God is greater than all of that. God is the creator. He's always been there. He would always be there. He never dies. He never gets tired. He doesn't have human relations like us. He doesn't sleep, you know. Like, to me, those things are human characteristics.
Right. Exactly.
For example, the Jehovah's Witness research into the Bible and things.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate the fact you guys don't celebrate Christmas. You know, it's a pagan festival originally, right? And I did read the Watchtower quite a bit, so I've been to Kingdom Halls. I've researched it, but and I was a little confused about what exactly do you guys say about Jesus? Because like Protestants will say he's God, right? Mm-hmm. Catholics will say he's God, but I believe you don't believe he's God, right?
Right.
So you believe he's
the Son of God. Yeah.
So son in what sense? Like a physical sense or
one
endearment?
One way that I always try to remember is that in the Bible, they use a phrase that translated into English is only begotten.
But that's interesting because in the Psalms of David's also called the begotten son.
Oh yeah, because so the main reason that I was going into that is begotten is kind of an old word for us in English nowadays, but it means coming from something.
So David is also coming from God.
Oh, coming from someone. He was the son of a man.
Yes.
David was.
David, yeah.
But that's interesting.
He was a human, so...
Look up 2 Psalms. Mm-hmm. Your Bible?
Yeah, I got it right here.
All right.
We're talking about convenience and...
Yeah, there you go. Go for it.
We have an instant gratification.
Yeah. So in 2 Psalms, David says, I will declare to thee what the Lord has decreed for me. Today you are my son, I have begotten you.
So let's find that Psalm, 2 Psalms.
I believe it's on verse 7 maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, 7.
Memorize
it. Talk about memorization.
Yeah.
Creator Jehovah, he said to me, you are my son, today I have become your father. So essentially, and
so I mean, if you actually look up, I mean, I don't know if you're looking the New World Translation, I'm assuming.
The New World Translation.
But if you look up King James, if you look up King James, if you look at the Hebrew, begotten is used there, right? Mm-hmm. So, is David the older brother of Jesus then?
Talking about and that's a good question because Jesus actually had to answer similar questions.
Okay.
And so in a lot of it, he talks about, I am is it the greater David or the greater Moses that he talks about in that one particular one? See, my memorization, I don't got it quite as good as you do.
Not as up as me,
I can live up to that example. Well, here, can I share one of the references?
Sure. You can just read it to me.
Oh, yeah. So right here in Acts, talking about, Jesus has come to earth. He's already sacrificed himself. This is Paul talking at this point.
Okay.
He says, God has completely fulfilled it to us. So this is talking about the first century Christians, their children. By resurrecting Jesus, just as it is written in the 2nd Psalm, you are my son, today I have become your father. So he's talking about they are in this covenant with God that allows them to be able to have that upright standing.
The question is with begotten. You said Jesus is a physical, the actual son of God, even though, Solomon and Ephraim and many others were called sons of God, right? In Genesis, it says the sons of God saw the daughters of men. But you made a distinction between those sons and Jesus being, because you said begotten. But David is also begotten. So is David the older physical brother of Jesus as being the physical son of God?
I can definitely see where we're using a particular phrase to reference something.
But you brought up the begotten, not me, right?
Oh, no, exactly.
I just want to understand it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally understand.
Because to me, I believe that in the sense of endearment is different. Like, for example, you might see a young man and say, son, let me speak to you, right? Catholics, and I know you're not Catholic, they go to a priest and say, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. But they don't mean physically. They mean as a term of endearment.
Right.
In that sense, the Bible uses son for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, it does.
For example, in the Old Testament, you will see Solomon, that he will build a house for me and I will make a kingdom forever and I will be a father and he will be my son. You also see David, as we just read, being called a begotten son in the sense of translation and all of that. If you look at Ephraim, he's also called Israel, which is Jacob, Yaqub, right? So he is also called son of God in the Bible, right? And many others, but those are just few references. So to me, those are terms of endearment. Would you
Right.
agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that sense, Jesus miraculously born without a father and being called the son in the term of endearment is very different from Jesus being considered physically a child born out of God. Like, I don't believe God has kids. I don't believe he has a mother. I don't believe he has a wife. I don't believe he has cousins. I believe God is great. Exactly. Right? It's laughable when you think of God having, like, alimony or, so, right? Child support. God is greater than all of that. God is the creator. He's always been there. He would always be there. He never dies. He never gets tired. He doesn't have human relations like us. He doesn't sleep, Like, to me, those things are human characteristics.
Right. Exactly.
For example, if you look up John 17:3, you know this one.
Means everlasting life, partaking in knowledge of you,
Right.
the only true God and the one whom you sent forth,
Yeah, good, you're
Jesus
good.
Christ, right?
So, the only true God is the one above then. Would you agree?
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
So Jesus does not have all the knowledge of God, right?
Right.
So
I would say so. Yeah.
So he's like a messenger. He's somebody who's sent by God.
Right. Sent.
Or-
yeah.
There you go, like a prophet, like
He's
the
even
people
called
of
the
Nazareth.
master worker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, the people of Nazareth, when they were asked, when Jesus asked them, "What do you think?" Oh, it's my son.
Your son. Hey, how you doing, man? All right.
College.
Okay,
Gotta
man.
get to school.
Have a good day.
So when we just asked the people, "What do you say about me?" Or what do the people say about me? They said, "Well, some people say you're John. Some people say," and he said, "What do you say to the first Christian, not Paul, because Paul's later. Paul
Yeah,
never
Paul is
physically met Jesus.
Exactly.
Visions aside,
Right.
but the actual follower of Jesus said, "You are a prophet of Nazareth," right? So as a Muslim, I would believe that yes, he is a prophet of God, as David was a prophet of God, as Moses and Abraham and to me, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon all of them, are prophets of God, but none of them are God, and none of them are physically children of God. What do you think about that? Does that make sense?
Well, one thing I would say that I really appreciate, and I want to let my partner also
You
talk
can
as
both
well.
speak.
Yeah,
You're doing great.
One of the things that I really appreciate is that having that respect for God as being above.
Great.
Because that's one of the things that has always really made me scratch my head when I do
Right.
talk with other Christians and stuff like that. Is like Jesus specifically in his, not only in his words, but in his demeanor, in all of those things, he represented himself as a worker for God.
Exactly. That's
He-
amazing.
Yeah, he is.
He's sent by God. Repeatedly, he
Exactly.
said the Father is greater than I.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Christians will say they're co-equal coexistence. And I think you as Jehovah's Witness, you would disagree with that, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
You don't
That's
believe
right.
Jesus is equal to God.
No.
You don't believe he's coexistence. He was created. And then he brought a message. He worked for God. He spread a beautiful message. He set a beautiful example. We love him. We believe he was a great example for humanity as Moses, as Abraham, as Muhammad. Peace be upon all of them, right? But when Christians start worshiping Jesus, we say, why not worship Jehovah, the one that Jesus worshiped? Huh?
And that's another amazing point. Yeah. Oftentimes, Jesus specifically said you pray to one God.
Right.
And so any idea of praying to Jesus or to saints and stuff like that.
And you guys are almost Muslim. You're almost there, right? We're common ground. This is
One of the
great.
things
right?
that I have spoken, we get around, we talk to all
Yes,
kinds of people.
you get
One of
around,
the things
for
I've
sure.
always appreciated is that Muslims take their study very seriously, at least all of the ones that I've met.
Right.
And so they have wonderful spiritual conversations that I feel is, very rare.
Well, I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's
yeah,
setting a
of
lot of
course.
things straight. I mean, one of the things that I have found from studying your books, from the Jehovah's Witnesses, is that you pointed out the contradictions in the Bible and the mistakes in the Bible and the fact that it had been changed very early on, and that's great, And I don't know if you ever read a Quran, and if you would like one, I can give you one. If not, you can check them online.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's against your rules to take anything, so I'm not going to pressure you.
No.
But a book without contradictions, a book that's been preserved, memorized. For example, even though JWs, you guys do an amazing job of studying the Bible, I don't know if you know anybody that's actually memorized it word by word, letter by letter.
I'm sure they're out there, but it's,
Yeah, I don't know.
They're not, because
I can't do it.
I have traveled across the world, and I just had a discussion with a PhD Chinese pastor as well in Dubai, who was a PhD. I mean, he studied, you know, and he was there. He wasn't a JW. He was a evangelical Christian. But I challenged them. I said, show me just one person from any denomination, Catholic, Christian, JW, Mormon, that has memorized even the New Testament, forget about the Old Testament, in Koine Greek. None, right? But we as Muslims, even we have our children, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, they memorize the entire Quran. From the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, till our time. One after the other, one after the other, every generation, right? So that's why we don't have, like, you know, the contradictions about the age of Isaiah, or, you know, I'm sure you know them because Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of your books actually pointed these out, right? That shows the Bible has been changed.